In a state already embroiled in legal and political tensions, a recent development has again brought existing frictions to the fore in Rivers State. In a recent development, the administrator for the state, retired Vice Admiral Ibok-Etteh Ibas, approved the appointment of administrators for the 23 local government areas of the state and reconstituted the previously suspended boards of agencies, commissions and parastatals. This decision comes despite a federal high court ruling that barred such appointments after the chairman secured what they described as a term extension from 27 defected lawmakers loyal to WIKE. Okay, let's begin this conversation this way. I'll start with you, Mojid. Is the River State administrator disobeying court order with his action?
Well, let's understand that there's an emergency rule in Rivers. So, the law, I mean,
I'm trying to hear what you want to say.
When there's an emergency rule, there is a suspension on the Constitution.
The law takes a back foot?
In that state.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, those who went to court, that's what is like a war situation. In that state, that's why the legislature is under suspension. I think the judiciary can only treat civil and criminal matters. But whatever that has to do with administration in the state, I doubt if, I think it's the National Assembly that can clear that.
So the River State administrator has the right to disobey a court order?
This is not a matter of disobeying court order now. It is an emergency rule.
Okay.
There is no legislature. It is, the judiciary is functioning, but it's like the state is standing on 1.5 legs now. The executive and partially the judiciary. So, you see, what emergency rule means is not something a state should, or a state or country should drink. I know that by now, Fubara and his backers, as well as WIKE and his people, I am very sure they will be regretting now, because they have put Rivers in a state of flux. Emergency rule is not something, you cannot gather. You cannot say you want to meet. You can't do anything. It's not a matter of disobeying. Listen, it's only criminal matters can, the judiciary can deal with things that are political or that has to do with the executive. I doubt if it will be binding on the administrator. So that's why the restraint order on the appointment
of the local government
is not binding. All boards and parastatals, some people said it's just for 6 months. The same thing happened in Ekiti. The same thing happened in Plateau. The same thing happened in which other state now? So, it is better avoided. When it comes, the reverberating effects will be too much to bear. You can't, I mean, it's not something, a state of emergency is as it comes. It is an emergency situation. And you can see the way it is the National Assembly, it is the House of Reps that will pass the budget of Rivers. So it's really, really complex. It's really, really complex.
Asukwo. I really do not understand the point he came from, saying that as a River State administrator, he can disobey the courts in this regard because it's a state of emergency. Do you agree with him?
Well, I will say I partially disagree because
Talk to me.
because yes, I will agree with him in the sense that it's an emergency rule, and once you have an emergency rule, everything is suspended.
Okay.
Everything is suspended, and but once we have, because if you notice, the judiciary was left behind.
Yeah.
Now, the judiciary was left so that they'll be able to adjudicate on matters that pertains to the states. And coming from what has happened, it is now the Federal High Court that is saying, hold on, we know that you are still the sole administrator,
Yes.
but just hold on. Do not do X, Y, Z. Even though we know it is an emergency rule,
Yes.
but you can still hold on until we start hearing things.
Exactly.
You understand? Until you start hearing the substantive matter, which is just maybe next week. So maybe from there, we'll begin to know, okay, does he even have the right for him to even start getting local
actions.
government, chairman, to start, functioning. He still has the right to administer. He has the right to administer that state. And that is why it's called a sole administrator.
Absolutely.
You understand? But because I know where Majid is coming from. It's coming from the emergency, which is everything stops completely based on it is an emergency rule. It's just like a war situation. When once there's a war situation, nothing works.
Meaning democracy
Stops completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
But because if you notice, the president did not touch the judiciary.
Exactly.
And so the president knew that if we touch the judiciary, then it means that you are giving Ibok-Etteh Ibas the sole right to do anything that he can do, including if, in quotes, if he wants to even, declare, say somebody, then dismiss somebody and say, okay, that person stole, go and firing squad, go there and do it.
Okay.
But it actually kept the judiciary
to check him.
Okay. And so that is where that check is. And don't forget, another check is in the National Assembly.
Okay.
So before he will start spending money, he has to go to Abuja for them to appropriate, to check if it's true he really needs money for him to administer that state. It is just so unfortunate that we have gotten to this point. Because I feel that this is what should have been dealt with before they allowing the president to declare a state of emergency in Rivers. It shouldn't have gotten to this point, whereby we begin to have one man, bringing agencies, appointing agencies, for me, I feel, but really, for the optics sake,
yes,
maybe the sole administrator should have just respected the judiciary, you understand, and hold on till when the opportunity comes for him to, because really, as we speak, Rivers people are confused.
But what do you make of the actions of the Rivers State Administrator? Imagine dissolving the Electoral Commission?
No, those ones are all dissolved.
LGA sacking all political appointees.
They are all
Do you think he's doing the right thing?
Because they were
dissolving all
they
of
were
this?
all appointed by the man who has been suspended.
Exactly.
And he called what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court said there was no government
yes, exactly.
in Rivers. That's the judgment of the Supreme Court. Said Fubara was operating like an emperor, like a dictator. Like there was no government. It shut down the legislative arm of government, and that a state is supposed to stand on a tripod.
Yes.
Legislature, judiciary,
and
executive. And you removed one leg. So I'm not saying it is correct for the administrator to disobey the judiciary. But what I'm saying is, you see, the Supreme Court already said there is no government.
Okay, just hold that thought. We have Alaba calling from Lagos. Alaba, thank you so much for joining us on Journalist Hangout.
Good evening to you gentlemen in the studio. Yeah, Alaba is my name from Ojo in Lagos.
All right, let's talk.
First of all, what is happening in Rivers is very, very unfortunate and so saddening. But the situation is in our hand now. First of all, let us define what is an emergency. When we define an emergency, then we now know the answer we need to be giving to each question. I think what the man is doing in Rivers State, I think both judiciary and everybody there is the only demand that can decide who to be what or what to be who to be what. Understand me? It is only the president that can even tell the man do this, do that, because the man is working on the directive of the president. So if the judiciary is also coming, I don't forget, the judiciary is also part of the problem that the Rivers State is also experiencing now. So you can see the kind of conflict that is also coming there before Fubara was suspended. So the man, the only person that can give directive is the president. So the man is working on the directive of the president. I think if it is not obeying the court order now, I think the man is in order.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, Alaba. Because there's this, looking at the actions, because there are speculations that Vice Admiral Ibok-Etteh Ibas is systematically dismantling the remains of Governor Fubara's political structure in Rivers State. Do you agree with that?
Well, we are not talking about political structure now, because what we are even talking about is even the existence and the survival of the state. And
no, because they're saying that the actions of the state administrator is targeting, the political structure of the suspended government.
That is what you think. If you sit down with Ibok-Etteh Ibas today, he will not tell you, he doesn't know who is a Fubara or who is Wike.
That is it.
Take that. So don't bring that politics into it, because he has said he doesn't. The only thing he's after is the peace in that state.
And stability.
And that is why it's there.
Yeah.
So whether some people are sitting there and saying, oh, he's destroying somebody's political structure, or he is not interested in that. It's how to keep that state peaceful, so that I think it's even better for the state to be at peace, so that that environment for all the parties that we are involved can all come back in one particular table and then decide and agree on how they can forward the state forward. I think that is the work of the sole administrator. The sole administrator is not for Mr. A or Mr. B. No. His own is let the atmosphere be conducive enough so that the parties who we are all in, fighting this war will be able to come down to the round table, and then they agree, and so that the state can move forward.
Okay, as we round off on this topic, what would you advise, the two parties, the Fubara camp, the Wike camp, as this, some are even contemplating.
I'm even surprised they've not even come to even, you've not heard anything from them to sit down.
Exactly.
Well, the Wike team, the Wike party, so to say, they are in UK on a legislative retreat.
So they are on suspension. Are they legislators at this point?
Well, I mean, they said that had already been organized. We don't know who is funding it, because they've not been paid for almost 16 months. So I don't know where they got the money to go to UK. But for Fubara, I think Fubara, during the Eid homage, the Salah homage that some people paid to him, I could see some sober reflections from him. But he's the biggest loser in all of this. Yeah. Because he's supposed to be the chief security officer. And recall the president told him, Mr. Governor, go and stoop to conquer.
Stoop to conquer, he said that.
We have had these scenarios played out in several states. Peter Obi was in Abgaden. The state legislature was dominated by PDP. He was able to manage it. In Nasarawa State, there's this former governor who had a very caustic legislature. They tried to impeach him. They couldn't impeach him. So it has happened.
The governor before this one.
Yeah, the governor before this. I can't recall his name now.
Al-Makura.
Sorry, Al-Makura. Yeah. Al-Makura, in fact, to the extent that there was an impeachment panel set up, but he was able to serve out his 8 years. So Fubara that, I mean, you know that somebody brought you there. And you see, we might want to say who is Fayose on the eve of his inauguration.
Yes.
That paper don't that Fayose won him. He said, don't pretend to see everything.
Yes.
Don't look at everything. So
all right, then.
they need the two parties need to come together for the sake of the masses and the people of Rivers.
Absolutely.
This is not good for them.
Absolutely.
It's not good
all
for
right,
them.
gentlemen.